Hello everybody, welcome back to live stream. I think we're still a little bit early. I'm just trying to see the studio clock. Yeah, I think we've got 5 minutes or so to go. So I'm just doing a little bit of tidying up while I'm waiting for the show to start. And tonight I want to talk about multi-block printing and separations and stuff like that, unless you guys are going to ask other questions. So you know, don't hesitate to leap in and ask questions, and as soon as we get going I will explain why I've got this selection of different sorts of plastic in front of me and the print that I'm working on. Hi Terry, and hi Renee, and Denise. Hello, hi, welcome back, welcome to my studio. It seems like ages since everybody was here. So I've got some new prints to talk about tonight. So I'm just going to give it a few minutes. So I'm doing a bit of tidying up at the moment, and I'll explain which bit I'm cutting when I show everybody the print. So this is lino that I'm working on here, and as you can probably see, I've already printed this block. It's very grubby and I'm just tidying it out a little bit. Hi Simon. So how are we doing, Ben? Are we there yet? Okay. I think we're at 8. Are we at 8 o'clock?
2 minutes?
2 minutes, right, okay. Well, I'm going to explain anyway. I'm going to start talking and other people can catch up as they arrive. Hi Mark. Hi Godair. Hi. So this evening I thought that what I would do is talk to you about some new prints that I'm making. They're little prints, and they're new artist pledge prints, and they're lino cuts, and I'm going to make multi-block prints. Hello from Norway. And the block here that I'm cutting out at the moment is a key block. So this block has all the information I need on it to make colour blocks, to make a 4-colour multi-block lino cut. Oh, hello, hi Ben, welcome to your first live stream. Hello, hello. And let me show you the image that I'm working on. So this is the image that I am working on. My lovely assistant will hold it to the camera. And this is going to be a pledge print. So it's going to be one of my artist support pledge prints, and it's Doris asleep with her sister Betty in the background. You never get to see Betty, but Doris is here. She won't be very impressed because Ben's just picked her up to come and say hello, and she hates being picked up, but anyway, here she is. Yeah, so she is in the studio for the evening. So this print is of her and her sister, and what I've done is to print the black parts. That you ignore the yellow, that's just coloured in with pencil, and I've put my block onto the lino block onto a board, and then I have printed the black block onto a piece of, well, paper or plastic. So I'm going to show you what I use as alternatives, and then I've offset that onto a new piece of lino. So you can see I've actually printed, let me get the right block, I've actually printed my line block onto paper and then pressed the wet ink on the paper down onto a new piece of lino to offset. Good morning, Roseanne. Hello, hi from Los Angeles. Hi to Los Angeles from Esther. And hello, Rona from Glasgow and Ventura County in California. Hello. Hi, everybody. And congratulations to everyone from the States about your election and the amazing turnout for that election. We all watched absolutely gripped over here, I can assure you. So, to go back to the lino cut, I have had to offset onto 3 pieces of lino so that I can have...
I want to have a Pacific coat.
I want to have my black block, so this is going to do the black piece of the picture, and then I want a yellow colour, sort of Doris sort of yellow ochre colour, and a pale grey and a dark grey block. So what I've done is I've offset, and what I normally do is I use tracing paper to do this. So I ink up my line block with black ink so that it's nice and inked, and then I get a piece of tracing paper and I print that black ink onto the tracing paper, and then I take that block out, put the other block, the next block, the new block underneath, and then press the tracing paper down and rub the ink off. But I thought it would be interesting to try using plastic to see if I got a better transfer, because obviously when you are transferring the print onto a new piece of lino, you kind of want to know where all the details are so you know where to cut. And yeah, hi Claire, hi George. So I tried various things, and I just wanted to run through them so that you could see the kind of quality it gives. So I think of these 3, that one's got the best quality transfer. So this is using, I'm using water-based ink here, and I used a piece of mylar, very thin mylar sheet here, so a plastic sheet, and I printed my water-based ink onto that plastic, and you can see it's printed perfectly well. And of course, because it's plastic, it doesn't absorb the ink, so you have nice wet ink to print back down onto your lino. I hope this is making sense to you guys. Yeah, good. So actually printing on the mylar worked really nicely, so I was quite pleased with that. So that was that one. And then I was getting kind of clever with it, and I had this much thicker plastic film to play around with. So I thought, oh, well, I'll try with a thicker plastic. And this was a disaster. This really didn't work at all. You can probably see there, especially if I put it against something, that it's very blotchy. It's not very good at all. And when I transferred onto the lino, there were no details. It was all just one nasty smear. So that wasn't very good. And I actually had to start again. And this one here was printed with the mylar plastic, but it was the second printing, and so it was the second time I'd done it, and I hadn't cleaned off in between, and it's okay, but I've lost a lot of the kind of detail around here. It's transferring well, but it's certainly worth wiping the plastic off in between printings. Sorry, let me get Ben to hold it up a bit closer for you, if you need the detail.
Have you got the good one so that people can compare
Yeah,
it?
there you go, there's the good one. So hopefully you can see the difference. So, and actually that plastic's really easy to clean off. You just need to wipe it off with a damp cloth and make sure it's dry. So that was a lesson learned. And then the final one I've got here, I did with tracing paper. So this is just ordinary cheap tracing paper. and that's what I've been using in the past, and that's the result I got from that. Yeah, George asks, why do you think the lighter mylar was better than the heavy stuff? I think it was probably the surface of it. This has got it's a sort of almost a pearlescent surface, whereas this is really kind of bouncy, shiny stuff. So that one, I think maybe it took the ink better. If you look at how the ink coverage is, I think it just took this is quite thick and clumsy. It's just that because it's thick and clumsy, I haven't found anything to use it for, so I was kind of keen to use it up, but it doesn't work. So the tracing paper one is okay, but if you can get it, then it's maybe worth trying with the thin plastic. I know it's not called mylar. I don't know if you call it mylar in the States. I know Shirley sells it now at Hand Printed, but it's quite good stuff, and it's also really, really excellent as a mask. So if I just show you, let's take a moment away from the cats, hard though that is. I just want to show you some little landscape prints that I've been working on. So let me just get one out to show you. It's all got stuck together because I left the tape on. I'll just take the tape off. So this little print that I've been working on, this is a landscape. I'm doing a series of 4. They're really sort of studies of light, I guess would be the most accurate. And what I use the mylar for as well is to actually block off part of the print. So in this instance, I was working on the landscape at the bottom here. Oh, that's interesting. Simon is suggesting that you might want to rub talc on this film to make it work better. I guess you could, or maybe you could sand it or something to key the surface of this to make it work better. That's a possibility. I hadn't thought of it. I will try it and see and report back. So to go back to using mylar to mask off areas, what I was doing in the press today was working on this darker patch of this landscape, and what I do is I put it, when I've got the block in the press, so if I go to the block, if I got it here, maybe I haven't got the right block here, maybe I haven't picked up. Sorry, if you imagine this is, I was after the lino block for this print here. I don't know.
Print?
This print, it's lino.
Sorry?
The lino block for this print. I don't know, it's probably in the press. When I print this bit, what I do, if you imagine this is the piece of lino, not the print, then I was inking up here in grey ink and just flipping this down and taking a print and then flipping it out of the way. So it was acting as a, it doesn't matter. And it works really well because it doesn't leave like an embossed line or anything, it just masks things out really well. So it's quite handy when you're printing. And that is one of a series. Here's another one, another example again, where I was working into parts. Yes, you can use water-based ink for this technique, and I'm going to make a film about it to show exactly how I did it in a rather more logical and less garbled manner, because I've got another print to do as well. So the other print of this pair is this print, and I'm going to probably make that a 3-block print, and I will show exactly how I've lined everything up, and I'll make a video of that, I think. we're going to film that. Ah, look, I've just found the landscape print. So yeah, mylar is really useful for masking bits off, and it's useful for masking bits off for Japanese woodblock as well, because you can kind of make a hinge out of masking tape and just flip it out of the way and back down, and it stops transfer, and it also stops embossing, which is really helpful. So that's that one. And I just wanted to show you this little one that I finished, just to show you how they're going to look when they're finished. These ones, I painted these directly onto the lino. So I didn't do a drawing first. In fact, I didn't really draw at all. I just painted directly onto the lino. Here's another one that I've done. And this is white poster paint and Sumi ink. And you can probably see that they're on grey paper. That paper's called Stonehenge. It's the steel grey colour in the Stonehenge range, which I found at Jackson's Art Supplies. But I wanted to try working with a grey piece of paper, because then of course you can print the white and build the white up. So this one here, which is, it's all about snow. I haven't got very far with the printing of that, but you can kind of see how the white works on the grey with that one. You might have to tilt it about a bit then, because it's quite subtle. And so it's a nice technique. Odette's saying she likes the way that I'm cutting direct from the painting with the lino, and doing that's really interesting. I put a video up, I live streamed some cutting during the week, and I put that up on IGV video on Instagram. IGTV video, yeah, on Instagram, showing that. And it's fun to do, but you have to be a bit careful about it, because it does get really, really complicated, especially if you painted the whole picture onto the lino. So what I've done here is it's water-based, so I'm using poster paint, and I've mixed it with Sumi ink, and the white tends to disappear as you clean, but remember that I'm printing with oil-based ink, so I'm cleaning with white spirit. If you are using water-based ink to do this technique, this is a reduction technique where the painting is on the block the whole time and I'm cutting away. If you use water-based ink to draw with and then you ink in water-based ink, you're going to lose your picture. It would just transfer and make a terrible mess. You need, if you want to try this technique, it does kind of rely on the painting being in water-based and the inks being oil, or I guess if you painted it, I don't know if acrylic paint would work. You need something that's going to withstand the water-based ink and washing with water. So something that's going to resist that if you used water-based ink. And also, if you use safety wash ink, it's really easy to forget that if you clean your safety washing with soap and water, of course you're going to wash your painting off as well. So that is a problem. But as I say, using water-based poster paint and Sumi ink, and then cleaning with white spirit, the painting will stay on. These white bits, I've actually painted these on at this layer because the white had all disappeared off the block and I just wanted some guidance, so I did a little bit of extra painting on the top there to keep it nice and fresh. Yeah, Denise wonders about the acrylic floating off. Yeah, it might do. I don't know what the answer is for that, for water-based ink. So I would have to think about that one and maybe do some tests and stuff to find that out.
Or maybe one of your audience could do
Or maybe
some
someone else could do some
so somebody who prefers to use water-based inks.
Well, it's the reason I need to know is because it's something that I might teach in the future, so it's considerable, it's possible. So there are a couple of drawbacks to doing painting direct on the block. The first one is that you have to remember that the picture's not going to then be reversed, so you have to really think hard about the balance of the picture. So I used a mirror, so I was sort of like constantly holding it up to the mirror to see. So in the picture here, the dawn picture, this very early morning picture, which is very subtle at the moment. Indian ink, no. Indian ink, if you get water on Indian ink, it just runs. So I'd be really wary of that if you're not using, if you're using water-based ink. So with this dawn picture, I have this kind of very dynamic cloud in the sky. That's the block for it. And it was quite difficult to get that to look right in mirror image. So I had to really work on that. And that cloud will be a very translucent, sort of red shading up to a sort of dirty pinky colour, probably. And there's a little flock of birds here as well. So when I'm inking up the cloud, I'm going to have to wipe those birds clean because the cloud's going to be really, really extended. So I'm going to use a lot of extender to get a very transparent cloud. But if I ink the whole thing and print it, these little tiny, tiny flock of birds can get quite gloopy with the extender. So what I'll do is I'll print the cloud bit, but I'll wipe the birds clean before I print. And then when I've printed the clouds, I'll cut the cloud bit away, and then I will go in and print the birds with a really, really thin layer of ink with no extender, so that I don't have that slight tackiness of extender. I mean, I love using extender, but it can get just a bit gloopy on fine detail, so I have to watch that a bit. Right, so Amanda says that she has trouble with losing details when she prints as the ink fills the lines using water-based. First one's okay, but the other's not so good, and I wipe the liner down, but I have to do this every 2 prints. What I would say about that is that if you have a really good roller, so a roller that has some softness to it, then you can get away with rolling out a much thinner layer of ink. And what I sometimes do, if I have really fine lines, is that I will roll out a really thin layer of ink and I will ink up and print and see how it goes. And I might then ink up and print again with another fine layer of ink and do 2 inkings rather than 1 thicker inking, and I find that seems to work better for details. But having a really good roller does mean that you can get that ink thin and still get a really good cohesive layer of ink. Water-based is trickier for that kind of thing, I have to say. It just is a little bit more demanding, especially if you've got like fine detail in a large area of lino. So let's say your picture has got like little fine lines cut into it, but it's actually a big piece of lino, so you have a lot to cover, but you've still got fine lines. Then yeah, that is tricky, and I would maybe try double inking it with fine layers rather than doing it all in one go. That's how I would try and do it. Yeah, Esther's suggesting using gesso for the under painting there. Which I know nothing about, so that's something I should look at. So the other thing about doing the painting directly onto lino is that you might need to help it out a bit as you go. So here, the landscape at the bottom of my dawn one is very painterly, and I might just need to actually Yeah, of course, you ask a random question. Yeah, Amanda, do order one of our devices. They are absolutely splendid, aren't they, Mr. B? The man who makes them.
I don't know what you mean.
Yeah, Denise, ask away. Random question about paintbrushes. So, yeah, I was showing you the bottom of this print because what can happen is that as you cut into it, you can sort of lose the sense of it being a landscape. So here it's become a little bit abstract, so I might have to help it along a bit. So I might have to drop in a little bit of painting or some line work with it, just to help it along. Am I shipping to the USA? Yeah, we are shipping to the USA. It's been a little bit slow. When we were sending out the last batch of pledge prints to the States, they were taking a little while, but we were sending them international standard. With the registration devices, we send them by courier.
With bridge devices, we send them by FedEx.
FedEx, yeah.
It's quite expensive, but they're quite big, so there's not much we can do about that.
Yeah, it's tricky because we used to send them by a kind of economy courier, and they would take like a month to arrive, so we had to change that.
Denise wants to know where to find out about making paintbrushes with her horse's tail.
Fantastic.
I think YouTube's the answer.
I think YouTube is maybe the answer. But what I would say is that we have got an interview, my podcast that I do with Peter Keegan, Ask an Artist. We have got Rosemary's Brushes coming on to do, I think they're doing 2 episodes. So I'm kind of making lots of notes about questions to ask. So if you have any brushy questions, do say. One of the questions that I get asked a lot is with Japanese woodblock, because you use animal hair brushes to actually do the inking up for printing. I know that there are people who don't like to use animal products at all, and they have always been asking about sort of synthetic brush replacements. So one of the things that I'm determined to quiz Rosemary's Brushes about is whether there are synthetic alternatives. But as for making brushes, that's not something I've ever done myself, but I'm willing to bet there'd be some really great YouTube videos about that. But I would think with the pony's tail, as long as you bind it really tightly. The other thing you can do to improve the hair is when you've got your brush made, if you want to make it softer and more absorbent, then you can do what I have to do to my Japanese printing brushes, which is to heat up a very heavy pan and singe. You want to thoroughly singe the hair of your brush and at the tips of it, and then work it over on very rough sandpaper. And what that does is it kind of splits the end of the hair and it makes it much softer. If you're interested in that technique, if you go to my resources section on my website and go into the Japanese woodblock section, there is a sort of photo story on how to do that. We did a sort of sequence shot of how to do that. Which is, oh yeah, Leon's had his reg device, so he's very pleased, so that's lovely, good. Right, so Anne is saying that she does transfer using a laser printer, which she then transfers to the lino plate using gloss heavy gel, which is not something I know. And she then gets the details, which is really, really excellent. And then I guess you then need to make sure all your blocks line up perfectly and are fixed on a mount in exactly the same way, each block, so when you do your transfer everything lines up. The reason I do this, apart from the fact that I've never really thought of doing it any other way, is that as I because the original line block prints onto paper and then the paper prints onto the new block, it automatically positions the lino. And you can see here from this that the lino is actually a bit big, so I need to lose that bit there. And here I've put it on a bit wonky, so I need to lose that edge there. So it's a bit of fine tuning, but it positions everything. But I think the photographic, the printer transfer methods are much better for getting lots of detail. It's just this one is sort of slaps things down in the right place.
It's a little reminiscent of the technique we used for the putting the images onto Japanese woodblock. The Gampi
yeah.
thing.
So, yeah, I know that there are various people who also will do a printout onto very fine paper and stick that down onto the lino and cut around like you would with a traditional Japanese woodblock, where you have like a sheet of paper and then you put it face down the lino and cut around it. Not something that I've tried, but I know people who do that. And then the photocopy and acetone method. So there's like the transfer problem of how to get your image onto the lino, but there's also the how to get the all your blocks of lino when you come to print to be in exactly the same place for registration, and that's always sort of like, so it's a double whammy really. So lining up is really important. Okay, let me move those out of the way. So to come back to my cats, the other thing that I do when I'm working out how a print's going to look is that I'm going to do a lot of editing. So when I was cutting this black line block out, I was doing texture on their fleecy blanket, and it was quite interesting to do, but it's actually totally inappropriate in that colour. So having done that sort of textured bit, now what I'm going to do is just to cut it out, and I'll put that texture in a different colour. So that's what I've been cutting out of the block here. It's right, to get rid of that. And also I don't like the pores with black lines round, so I'll cut those out and do those separately. And I refuse to cut an entirely new block just for her feet. So what I'll probably do is put it on one of the colour blocks and use the mylar again, which I've lost, with a hole cut through it so that I can actually ink up pink toes and then mask the entire rest of the block off when I'm printing her pink toes there. So although I've cut all this detail with the line block, quite a lot is going to come out. Like for example, the basket down at the bottom here, all that detail in the basket needs to come off. Let me show you. Yeah, so you can see, I mean basically you see my notes there, I write notes all over everything. And so I'm going to chop out all that basket detail and get it down to fine detail, because other blocks will be on the basket as well and I can put detail on there. So it's an editing process. This isn't really finished, and I'll work on it by degrees. And the same goes for this one, because when I cut, it's all right, I don't need to do it. When I did the picture here, I made the foreground way too complicated. I put too much detail down here, so I'm getting rid of some of that. So what I did was to work out which bits I thought worked best, and I'm going to cut away everything that I've coloured yellow there, which is going to make for a much sort of stronger picture. So I'm going to lose all the black lines where I've coloured yellow. But, you know, I'd rather go to the trouble of cutting them and see how they look and then lose them afterwards. So a bit of editing down. So yes, for these prints, I will be using for the one of the two cats here. I'm going to have the black block, and I'm going to have a yellow ochre-y sort of coloured block, and then I'm going to have a pale grey, transparent grey block, and a slightly darker grey block. So the transparent grey will do the sort of grey of their blanket, and the darker grey is where there's texture. I'll cut all the texture in the darker grey. So in the finished print, it'll be a grey blanket with darker grey texture on it. And I'll also use the yellow ochre for the wicker of the basket and the greys for the texture of the wicker, and put some shadows in and edit the black detail down to fine detail there, so that the wicker, which is a bit clumsy at the moment, will be much more three-dimensional. So in places it'll be that yellow ochre, and in other places it'll be various shades of grey and black. So that'll really help to kind of bring that much more into detail. And the same with Doris's face here. She's got these kind of frowny lines that on her, like a tabby cat on her face here. And of course I need the grey ink to put in the little frowny furry lines, and to make her feet. Her feet are white, but they need grey shadows on them, so I'll be using the grey again there. And as I say, one of these blocks I'm going to have to get those paws, the little pink pads in somehow, so I have to work out how to do that one. Hello from Chile. I'm going to let Ben pronounce this. I've got like tiny type on my computer and I can't.
Maramarium.
Thank you. So that's what that one is going to be. The one with this one with Doris, again, it's going to have a kind of orangey yellow and a grey and the line block. And I think it probably won't need a dark grey block as well. I'll have to see how that one goes. But I wanted these to have a kind of 1930s sort of feel to them. I want a kind of quite a retro. So what I might do is make all the ink slightly transparent, and rather than going for like very crisp opaque colours, I might go a bit transparent on those, try and get a kind of slightly retro vibe going there with those. So, Mr. B's gone to get a registration device, he's just run off to get
Time for an advert.
Oh, time for an
Sponsorship
advert.
break.
Well, this is a very dirty one. This is one I've been teaching with. Back in the days when I had real students in front
This is
of...
for the benefit of Sivan Baron.
Yeah, book illustration style, that kind of vibe to it. Yeah, so this is the registration frame, and what happens is that your print goes in there, and your bigger piece of paper goes over the top there, and then you can print, and you copy the lines across onto the back of the paper so that you can put it into the same place each time to take your print. So this will print up to A4, which I now understand A4 is not a thing in America, so it's, I don't know what that is in inches, I might have to do a conversion, but...
It's about 8.5 inches by just under 12 inches.
Right, okay. So
11.5 inches.
we've got hello from it. Do I have a hack to align the paper to lino while printing?
That was what we were doing.
Yeah, that's what we were doing that for. Right,
yep.
Okay, so that's dealt with. Now, Christine wants to know, do you think it's worth getting a wide, shallow gouge, I can't even read anymore, as well as a wide, flat chisel for clearing out? So what I would say is that when it comes to clearing out, if you just have like a wide, flat chisel, so, you know, I've got a couple here that are very wide and flat, they're great, but you need to make an initial cut. You need to isolate the lino for them to be able to get in there and strip out. So what I tend to do is I have
Do you want to scrap the lino?
yeah, oh, I've got one here. Ha, here's one I've got. I will show you. Let me move that out there. Because if you are clearing out
do you want me to come in for a close-up?
Yeah, why not? We'll do a close-up. This might be a bit sick-making. I apologise.
Apologies for the camera wobbling about all over the place.
Yeah, sorry. I'm going to show you this. Right. Okay. You're right there. Okay. So if you just have a wide tool for clearing out, it's all very well, but it's actually not great. So you see how it's just making very shallow impressions, so it's not really great on its own. But if you get in there first with a deeper one and clear yourself lines like that, then you can go in and it will go in nice and deep, and then it's brilliant for clearing out. So as long as you've got some sort of tool like a U gouge of some sort, I mean there's one that's a much cheaper version, that's a power grip one. As long as you've got something like that where you can run those parallels, then you can get in with this and just get in there, and then it's superb for that. I do have some slightly scoopy ones as well, which do kind of both jobs, so that will go in deeper and clear like so, and it will make slight ridges, but I can go back and take those out. So that's kind of jack of all trades, that sort of scoop. But I really love having this. I got this one from Hand Printed, which I need to talk to you about palette knives as well in a minute. So I got this one from Hand Printed, which is a flat chisel, and I love this because it's great. Oh, sorry, Mr. B is going to hold it up. Right, so you need. Yeah, so that one is really good if you've cut a block and then you just need to go in and tidy up. So that's excellent for just going in and taking off sort of thin slivers. So, oh, thank you, Mark. Mark is doing conversions to inches for us for A4. So Alison wants to know if there are any tips, practice trials for people who want to improve their lino carving skills. I think, to be honest, the best advice I can give you is to make yourself really comfortable to start with, because I say this because I'm really bad at this and I tend to sort of want to cut lino immediately and I'm not sitting very well and stuff like that, but I find I cut much better if I'm in a good chair, sitting comfortably with a non-slip mat and really good lighting. But I think it's just practice, to be honest. Just playing and practice.
Do you think you should show them your practice piece that you did? Because that's quite a good example.
It is. It's not very clear to see. Let me show you. I made this as part. It's a thing. It's a prop for the book, and I'm sorry it's not stained. It would be much easier to see if it was stained. But that was a little practice piece that I made. Partially to show the difference between cutting around and cutting out, but also when I teach people, sometimes they find it quite hard to get their head around how lino works and which bit you need to cut away and which bit you don't need to cut away. And for people like me who learn by kind of looking at stuff and feeling stuff, actually physically having a piece of lino that says cut away that you can actually like feel it's cut away is really, really helpful. So you could, I guess, it would be quite nice to do a sampler It's something that I've done myself, where I just have got a piece of lino and I've divided it up and I've tried to make as many creative cut patterns on it as possible. And that's a good way, especially if you print that sampler, it's a really good way of learning how deep you need to cut, what works, what doesn't, which bits of detail are easier to cut than others. And if it's small spaces in a sampler, you're not invested. It's not like you've designed a print and oh my god, you've now got to cut that background entirely in this style because you're invested in the print. So yeah, a kind of Victorian sampler, and also they look really pretty as well. So you know, that is quite fun.
There's a question here about paper types for printing on the registration device.
Oh, right. So printing on the registration device, yeah, if you look at, I think it's the second Lino with Laura series, there is a whole section about paper, or we did a whole section where we tested different sorts of paper. But what I would say is that when I print by hand, what I want is a really tough paper that's quite thin, rather than trying to print with anything too thick. I do know people who print with 200 gram paper, 300 gram paper, and you know, they must be very strong, because I find that quite difficult. So I tend to recommend the Japanese washi paper, papers for the hand printing of lino, simply because they're really, really strong. Because they're long fibred paper, they take a lot of hammering on the back of the print, so you can do a lot of hand rubbing, and a fine paper, a sort of 40 gram paper, will be surprisingly strong and durable. But if you don't want to use a washi paper, then I used to have a really good recommendation for a paper from Great Art called Simili paper, S-I-M-I-L-I paper from Great Art, which was a 90 gram paper, and it was a really good workhorse. I used to teach with it, but they've discontinued it. They do a Clairefontaine Simili paper now, but it's a heavier weight. I think you want to be around the 90 gram. But I would experiment, because so much of it depends on how many layers you do, what kind of work you're doing, how much detail you have. So I honestly would start with what you've got knocking about at home and play, and just do some experiments. You can get paper selections from, I mean, I know suppliers often do like test packs of assorted papers and things. They're quite useful, and samples and stuff. So the other thing is, and it's no good during lockdown, obviously it's not, but when art fairs or shops open up again, and if you have a chance to see any paper suppliers, they're often very generous with their samples as well, and you can kind of come away with a sheaf of papers to test out. And I was trying to think what else that I would advise for papers. I think that the printmaking papers, they can be a bit heavy, some of them. Zircon is quite a reliable paper. But as I say, the best of all, in my experience, are the washi papers, because they are so durable for hand printing. So that's the hand printing question. So what else have we got? Have we got any other questions? No more questions at the moment. So I'm just going to go back to this. Oh, palette knives. I need to tell you about palette knives. Just bear with me a sec. I had quite a lot of people asking me about these very, very cheap palette knives. Yeah, the origami paper's brilliant. I really love it for line and cut. So yeah, these have been out of stock. I got mine at Intaglio and they've stopped stocking them. Shirley at Hand Printed in the UK is on the case. She has found She can't buy them singly, but she's found packs with them in, and I think they're going to retail at about $1.99. So they will be available before too long. So they're coming back into stock. Do I prefer offsetting to using a master tracing? Well, actually, that's an interesting one because I don't normally ever work in multi-block lino. And when I did the series for YouTube, the Lino with Laura 2, where I did 4 different multi-block prints, I used a master tracing for offsetting for that. And it has its pros and cons. But as I say, I am a bit of a rookie when it comes to multi-block prints for lino because I always work with reduction print. The reason that I'm doing these as multi-block prints is partially so that we can photograph them later for the book that I'm writing about lino cut, but also because these are pledge prints, these little prints, they sell for £35 a print, and it's good to be able to print them and sell them at will. So I might print a batch and then print another batch, because the pledge prints have been really popular, and it's just a really nice way of kind of people supporting me, and then I spend 20% of everything that I sell with another artist, so it's kind of quite a nice thing. So I like to make the prints for the artist pledge prints to be reprintable so that I can print more if people want them. Right, so Rona is quoting a recommendation for Tsunomi Sanaka paper, which again, that sounds like maybe a washi paper. That sounds good. Kevin bought the palette. Yeah, she's got a different sort of palette knife as well. She's sold or she sells. I was chatting to Shirley this morning, and she says she's hunted high and low for these sort of kite shaped ones, and the only ones she could find were in the bag of 5. So you kind of get a selection pack.
So is that a bag of 5 for a couple of quid?
Yeah. But only one of these. There are 4 other palette knives in different shapes, so you can expand your palette knife collection if you buy that. But these are really, really excellent for mixing inks. So that is that. And the other thing I was going to show you is the little texture that I was doing on the cat blanket, which I was just playing with shallow
Are we
cutting.
going for another close-up then?
No, don't worry. What I was going to do is I was just going to demonstrate. So I was using a really shallow tool and going in very shallow, like so, to create a kind of dappled texture. So I'm barely denting the surface of the lino at all. Now you can hold that up if you want. And when you ink, because the the Kitakata paper, I really recommend it. So that really, really shallow inking, shallow cutting, when you ink with a soft roller, so a roller with a bit of give, you actually get a very soft edge to those cuts. It's not really crisp, so that it gives a nice kind of almost fuzzy print, which is kind of nice for a cat's furry blanket. They have I bought them cat beds with like these microfiber cat beds that have got like long hairy cat beds, and they won't go in them because they're frightened of the long furry bits, so I've had to cover them back up with grey fleece, and they love their beds now, but they didn't like them when they were like this long hairy stuff because they were scared of it. Kitakata paper is really, really nice, and also if you like to work large, Awagami are now selling that in rolls as well. They've brought that out in a roll. And hand printed, are going to start stocking Shiramini paper on a roll. That's the paper that I use for Japanese woodblock, and that's a really nice paper, both for lino cut and for Japanese woodblock. It's got a kind of really nice glow to it. Yeah, that's good advice from Ben. He says that to use wax paper or parchment when you're hand printing. So just to, I use it all the time. I have, yeah, in my opinion, Tesco do a better waxed paper than anybody else because they do this brown waxed paper. You can get white stuff, but actually, if you can get the brown stuff, it's kind of nicer. And so if you're rubbing the back of your paper, this will protect from, depending on what you know.
So this baking parchment?
So this is baking parchment, yeah, that's what you want. And then you can use a spoon or a barron or whatever to rub the back of it. All right, okay, so Ben doesn't like this roll. Not exactly the same as the single.
I think he's talking about Kitakata rolls.
Oh,
and
right, oh, the roll's not the
rolls.
same. Interesting. Because I know the Shiramini paper on a roll is different from the Shiramini sheets. Is it the Shiramini we're talking about? Right, I'm not quite sure. Amanda is saying that, no, it's counterintuitive, the hard roller, soft roller thing. If I show you my favourite rollers, which are really horribly expensive, I don't know if you can see, but I might get Ben to do a squidge test in front of the camera for you. So these are Urethane rollers, and you can see really they're sticky and squidgy. And the thing is that if you have a hard roller, if you think of like your sheet of glass and you've got inks on it and you're rolling out, if it's hard, then the roller it sort of skips in places. It doesn't. Best description is to think of the adverts for men's razors, where the razor is like travelling over the skin and catching all the hair and everything. Well, that's what a soft roller does. It's softer and it picks up a really smooth, cohesive layer of ink, and it will give you a much better result when you're inking out. If the roller's hard, it can tend to pick up different thicknesses of ink on itself as you roll it out. It's not as good at picking up that nice cohesive thin layer of ink, and nor is it as good at laying it down. It kind of doesn't spread itself over the surface.
You have to tell George that this is a brand new roller that we bought just this year.
It is, yeah. No, it's. I do try and keep them reasonably clean, but these Urethane ones, they are hands down my favourite rollers. But the Japanese rubber ones are good too, and I would never knock the Esdi, the blue handled ones from Esdi, and I was using these a lot in the lino with Laura, and they've got a little bit of squidge to them. I'm going to get
squidge testing
to do the squidge test again.
Harder than the green.
Yeah,
Urethane
it's not like the Urethane, but so these SD economy ones, don't go for the red handle, go for the blue handle. That's the soft one. Ben is talking about the Kitakata roll. Actually, I haven't tried it. Aragami sent me one, which was really generous of them, and I haven't tried it yet. But from your description, it does sound quite different. Interestingly, the Shiramini paper that I use the Shiramini on the roll, which I like better than the Shiramini Select by sheet. So it's well worth testing and trying out papers if you can. Whether you can get samples of the ones on the roll or not, I don't know. But yeah, it's interesting the difference between them. I think, Amanda, the problem with a hard roller is that you don't get as smooth and cohesive a layer of ink, so it can make it. It's sort of.
It's more about picking the ink up.
Sorry, Ben will tell. I'm struggling to explain it. Yeah, when you pick the ink up with the softer roller, you get a really nice smooth layer of ink. If you are trying to roll out with a hard roller, it's not going to pick up the ink as well, and you can end up with some thicker bits and some thinner bits. Is there a way of explaining that? I'm not quite sure what the physics of that is.
I don't know why it happens, but
I promise you, if you get a soft roller, you will like it better than a hard roller. And when you've got a really good roller, a lot of the problems of getting a good print disappear. A lot of the time when I look on Facebook at Lino Cut Friends and I look at examples of problems that people are having, so about 80% of the time it could be resolved by having a soft roller. So if you are going to spend any money anywhere, spend it on the roller, because you can kind of improvise with toys, with tools and stuff.
Has the black handled ones. We had one of those, didn't we? And you didn't like that, did you?
The
that
black
was
handled
harder
ones.
as well.
Yeah, the professional grade ones, they are quite hard.
Softer than the red ones,
but they're
not
softer
as,
than the red ones.
sorry, harder. Softer than the red ones, but harder than the blue ones.
Yeah, I have to confess I don't know those ones. I haven't tried that one. Oh, we've got an owl right outside. I don't know if you can hear the owl, but we have one just outside. They refer to those as professional grade, but the Shaw, the measurement of softness. I'm glad you can hear the owl. The measure of softness, the Shaw of the roller, the black falls between the blue and the red, I think. Yeah, the red ones. The red ones are the ones that come with every kit you ever get. So when somebody gives you a lino kit for Christmas or you buy a lino kit, it's often got the red roller in it. And I wish it had the blue one. I don't know why, because there's no difference in price really. So, and I have.
Alexandra is now saying that the next print should be a tawny owl. That was the last one.
Yeah, a loud owl. It's a really loud owl. It's yeah, star of my last pledge print. I did owls in the last pledge print, so it's obviously come back to pose for us. So that's roller. Yeah, the orange ones, that they are soft. The SD orange ones, I think, are softer. I tell you what, I will ring up. There's a very nice man called Chris who works at SD, and what I will do is I will ring Chris up and get him to tell me the lowdown on SD rollers so that I really understand it, and then I can tell you exactly what's going on. But I have a feeling that the ones with the orange handles have orange handles because Jackson's asked for orange handles, but they are soft. I think that's the yeah, if they made the blue in long sizes, I wish they did, and they like the black, the double-handled one.
You should show them your Lawrence's roller. Your long Lawrence's roller.
No, that's just showing off. This is
go on.
This is a roller that my entire family bought me for birthday and Christmas. If I can get it off. So this was like, it was that or go on a holiday. So it was that was my kind of, all my Christmases and birthdays came at once. But it is a really, really useful roller. I do use it quite a lot. But what I would say about them is, because they have slightly sticky surface, I always have to clean them off thoroughly before I use them. And I always hang them up. And I taught somebody once who had been given one of these, and she left it lying on its side, and she completely ruined the roller and had to buy a replacement roller because she forgot to hang it up, and it just sat flat in the studio for weeks. And
there's a question here about the brand of this. It's T.N. Lawrence's roller.
Yes, it's T.N. Lawrence and Son. So it's Art Shop Hove, they are on Instagram, and it's Lawrence's with a W. And they're called Urethane. This material's called Urethane. And like I say, when you hold it, it's not only squidgy, it's slightly sticky as well.
There's an awful lot of roller envy going on here.
All right, so Jenny says the orange ones are definitely different. All right, so maybe I was wrong about the orange handles then, because
I've an idea. We talked to somebody about the orange ones.
we couldn't track down. I did ask Esdy about the orange ones, and they were a bit coy about it. But if you've got one, then yeah, I think that you've done well with that, because I couldn't track down the orange ones. But again, I will talk to Chris at Esdy and see if I can get to the bottom of the orange handle ones. I can't now put that back up. The other thing about these is that they're very easy to dismantle for cleaning purposes, so you can take them apart and give them a good clean, which I do periodically. But you don't have to have something as fancy as this. This is just like really indulgent. And
it is just showing off.
It is just showing off. But the trouble was I asked for it before I looked at how much it cost, and then I was really embarrassed. So I could do a special episode on rollers. Actually, it would be really nice to do a live stream on rollers or something like that, or a live stream on kit or something. We could do that in the future. But yeah, if you guys think of anything that you particularly want me to do or show in a live stream, then drop me a message on Instagram or whatever and let me know, and I will try and do that for you. And the other bit of news is that we are getting ready for a big prize giving event. I've just got 20,000 followers on YouTube, and 2020 has been a bit of a rubbish year, so we thought it would be really nice to do a little promotion in the shop, and I am going to later on this month have, for 20 days, anybody who spends £20 in my shop is going to get put in for a prize draw.
20,000 followers on Instagram. You said YouTube here.
Did I say YouTube? Sorry, on Instagram, beg your pardon.
We're not quite there yet.
No. So I will be giving away 2 prints from the 2 of the prints that I made in the woodblock with Laura series, so the big landscapes. So I'll give 2 of those away, and hand printers have given me 5 £20 vouchers to give away, and we've got origami paper to give away, we've got greetings cards to give away, and I might persuade Mr. B to give registration devices as well. So there's going to be, for 20 days, anyone who spends £20 in the shop is automatically put into the prize draw, and then there'll be all these lovely prizes. So that's going to be coming up later in the month, probably on the 20th of November, because that seems appropriate. So that's kind of what we're working towards. That's why I'm getting all my prints in place and stuff. But I'm really looking forward to giving away 2 of those big prints that I did in the woodblock series. That'll be really nice to send those off to new homes. So yeah, watch out for that, and we'll let everybody know about that. So I think we are just coming up for time. So just checking that.
I think we're going to have to try and get one of these orange handled ones
we
so
are
that
going
we
to
know what we're
definitely
talking
try and
about.
get an orange handled one. I will try and get an orange handled one. So yeah, I will keep you posted about this promotion, and I'm going to give away a printed apron as well, because I've been printing up aprons. I've made a film about those. I'll just show you one of my printed up aprons. So these were a present from my sister-in-law, but I have been inspired to print on them, so I'm going to get one to give away as well. So we'll be giving away a printmaking apron. So we'll make sure that one of those goes in as well. So yeah, keep your eyes open for my 2020 offers, and I hope that you'll join us again for another live stream. Oh, you couldn't really see that. Good.
Oh, you can see it.
Yeah. Good. Well,
Yeah.
I hope that was useful for everybody, and it's been really, really nice having everybody back in the studio. I've missed that while we haven't been making films, and we'll keep putting out 2 films a week. So Monday's all about printmaking, and Thursdays will be more about inspiration and printing aprons and the fun stuff. So we'll catch you later. Bye for now. Yeah, and bye from Mr. B.
Bye bye, everybody.